a little kid. Well, a man down the road traded a mandolin for his pig. Well, he played around Brownsville with blind man Sleepy John. He played the jug bands in Memphis with jabbing old Sleepy John. Well, he made his own records and he played with Sonny Boy Juan. Play that harp, Sonny Boy. Mr. Dan. Here we go.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much. That was a song I wrote a few years ago, back in 1997. It's a song called Yank Rachell Blues. It's called the new Yank Rachell Blues because it was just written back in 97, which is,
so it's new.
Quite a ways back now, I guess, a little ways back there, but it was written about our friend James Yank Rachell, who was a longtime resident here in Indiana, and we're here today to pay tribute to Yank and all the influence that he had on everybody over the years and all the friends that he had around Indiana. It all started out, as the song said, back in Brownsville, Tennessee, in 1910, way back there, at the turn of the last century. It's always fun to say the turn of the century and know which century we're talking about, but Yank was born down there in Brownsville, and he played around Memphis area with a guy named John Estes, who was known as Sleepy John. He was a blind man known as Sleepy John Estes. I think he had Hodgkin's disease, I believe, is why he was blind. And they played around all over and played jug bands on Beale Street in Memphis, and went up to Chicago in 1929. The roots music market, the blues and jazz and what they used to call hillbilly music, was just starting to take off in 1929. The record industry in general was starting to do really well at that time. So Yank and Sleepy John went up to Chicago and recorded for Victor Records in 1929 a little tune called Divin' Duck Blues. And we're going to do that song right now, folks. Are you ready?
Ready.
2, 3, if the river was whiskey and I was a diving duck. If the river was whiskey, Lord, and I was a diving duck. Well, I dived to the bottom and I never would come up. Well, I went to the railroad and I looked straight into the sun. Well, I went to the railroad and I looked straight into the sun. Well, the train don't hurry, there's gonna be some walking done. Play that mandolin, son. Don't ever let a married woman be your best friend. Don't ever let a married woman be your best friend. Well, she'll take all your money and she'll spend it on the other man. But if the river was whiskey and I was a diving duck, Every river was whiskey, Lord, and I was a diving duck. Well, I dived to the bottom, and I never would come up. Play your heart, Mr. Allen. And I was a diving lord, a diving duck. If the river was whiskey, and I was a diving duck. Well, I dived to the bottom, and I never would come up. Take it on home now, boys.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much. The Diving Duck Blues, recorded way back in 1929 by Mr. James Yank Rachell and Sleepy John Estes on the Victor record label. And we always have a good time doing that song. We're the Yank Rachell tribute band this year. This is a gig started here by Mike Butler a few years back, and we're also known as the Naptown Jug Busters, if you don't mind me introducing to you way down on the end down there, Mr. Dan Bent. Yay, Dan. He's playing a 12-string Martin guitar down there. Mr. Allen Stratyner right there on the harmonicas.
Howdy, all. Thank you.
One-time band member of the Yank Rachell Steppin' Out Blues Band. Years ago, played with Yank for many years. When it was on Yank's last CD, I believe that was called Too Hot for the Devil.
That's exactly
it was,
right.
Pat Webb and Allen Stratyner and Yank Rachell doing that.
Thank
and
you,
we have a very special guest right here. This time we'll have a mandolin player that plays a little more folk on the bluegrass side. He's in a couple different bands around Indianapolis. Mr. John Boyer, give him a hand, why don't you? Yeah. Thanks to all you folks for coming out to the 2014 Indiana State Fair. And as we were saying, we're going to play some songs of Yanks and some songs of other folks and talk about the way things were back in the Depression days a little bit and kind of tell you the story of Yank's life. We'll get back to my song a little bit later to kind of get you going more into Yank's post-war life, but we're talking more about his pre-war life right now. And we're going to ask Mr. Dan to do a song for you that was originally done by Sleepy John Estes. And Dan, you want to do that tune for us? What do you got for us, sir?
I can. We call this one the leaving trunk. I might use you for my man for a while, but just don't you let my husband catch you here. I said, just don't you let my husband catch you here. Mandolin. Upstairs and I packed my leaving trunk. Never did saw no whiskey, blues made me sloppy drunk. Never saw no whiskey, but the blues made me sloppy drunk. Never did saw no whiskey, but the The blues made me sloppy drunk. Some say it's teas, yes, some call it teas, but it's a slow consumption, killing me by degrees. It's a slow consumption, killing you by degrees. Yes, it's a slow consumption, killing you by degrees. Thank you.
When we get to stealing,
Brings us up to about the end of the 20s, early 30s, and about that time, the economy was kind of not doing so well all over the country. And so we'll step away from Yank's tunes for a minute, and we'll play a tune by a fellow named Blind Alfred Reed, who was in the hills of West Virginia about that time and had similar circumstances and did this tune about life in America. Oh, well, there once was a time when everything was cheap. The prices nearly put a man to sleep. When we get our grocery bill, we just feel like making a will. How can a poor man stand such times and live? Now prohibition's good if it's conducted right. No sense in shooting a man till he shows flight. Officers kill without a cause, and they complain about the funny law. Tell me, how can a poor man stand such times and live? Can you stand it, Allen? Doctor, he comes around with his face all bright. He says in a little while you're gonna be all right. But all he gives is a humbug pill, a dose of dope and a great big bill. So tell me, how can a poor man stand such times and live? Tell me, how can a poor man stand such times and live? Thank you.
Mr. Dan Band, everybody. Times were tough back there in the Depression, that's for sure, and lots of folks went around doing whatever they could, and a lot of people, they didn't have really much of a choice. They could walk down the road and get stopped by the police and put on a chain gang. Happened to all the people down there in the South all the time, and or they could be in a band perhaps and get a bunch of different people together and put together what's called a jug band. You don't necessarily need a jug. Sometimes that's all you need is a jug. So it's up to you, whatever you want to do. A jug band is a kind of an idea that you can have different players come and go and have different folks play different instruments, or have different things that are not necessarily instruments, like a washtub or a jug or a washboard that Bill Bailey's playing. Actually, bring yourself a little bit of entertainment before there was television, and not too much before there was radio, for that matter. And of course, there was no internet and cell phones and smartphones and things they have of that nature. Yank Rachell was in a jug band with John Estes and a guy named Jab Jones, and it was John, James, and Jab, and they had a jug band called the 3 J's Jug Band. And Jab Jones went on to play in another more famous jug band called the Memphis Jug Band, which is, again, a really cool band that had a lot of influence on folks all over American music. And we're going to do probably, we're also going to invite somebody up to sing with us right now. And we're going to do probably their most popular song. We're going to ask John Boyer here to lead us off on the song Stealin' by the Memphis Jug Band. We're going to ask Miss Jamie Hood to come up and sing a little bit on the chorus line with that. If you would, give Miss Jamie Hood a hand.
Actually, she sings half of it with me.
Here we go with Stealin' by the Memphis Jug Band.
Yep. This is Jamie Hood. She's the second half of the Hammer and the Hatchet, my little duet project. So all the way from Nashville, Indiana. Okay, it goes a little like this.
Put your arms around me like a circle around the sun. I wanna hold you, honey, like my easy rider done. I don't believe I love you. Look at the fool I've been. Can't believe I'm sinking. Look at the hole I'm in. Stealing, stealing, pretty mama, don't you tell on me. I'm stealing back to my same old used to be.
Oh, the woman I love, she's just my hot size. Married girl, won't you see me sometime? You don't believe I love you. Look at the fool I've been. You don't believe I'm sinking. Look at the hole I'm in.
Stealing, stealing, pretty mama, don't you tell on me. I'm stealing back to my same old used to be. Put your arms around me like a circle around the sun. I wanna hold you, honey, like my easy rider done. I don't believe I love you. Look at the fool I've been. Can't believe I'm sinking. Look at the hole I'm in. Stealing, stealing, pretty mama, don't you tell on me. I'm stealing back to my same old used to be.
Everybody else.
Oh, I'm stealing, stealing, pretty mama, don't you tell on me. Oh, I'm stealing back to my same old used to be.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Jamie Hood.
Thank you very much.
Okay, now it's my turn to mess something up.
Yeah, go ahead.
We're going to ask John to do another song for us here. Yank Rachell, Yank Rachell, you can say it, pronounce it any way you want. It doesn't matter. He played for a lot of different bands and played on a lot of different record labels. He was on Vocalion Records for a while and was on Victor Records. He was also had the different pseudonyms where he went as Poor Jim or something like that. So he did whatever he could to make money and played for different songs for different record companies. And then he signed with Bluebird Records back in the 30s and had quite a lot of hits. He had several hits on Bluebird all the way up until World War II in 1941. And in 1935, he did a song called Texas Tony. It was Yank's song. And on the record it says Texas Tommy for some reason, but I think that was RCA's fault. They had owned Victor Records at that time and the Bluebird label. And so Yank died in 1997, and I think John Boyer was about 20 or 21 years old at the day that Yank died, and still being influenced by Yank all these years later, is going to do that song for us now, and it gives me an opportunity to play this wonderful washed-up bass I brought. Yank, John's going to do Yank's song Texas Tony for us right now.
Yeah. I'm going to hack my way through it anyhow. You ready? sure thing, bring my woman back. Mama, mama, know that I am your child indeed. Mama, mama, know that I am your child. I do anything, oh no, sure thing, gonna stop them down. Bring my shotgun, pistol heads up, my sweet thing, oh Lord, sure thing, gonna stop something here. Hear that rumbling way down in the crowd, indeed, my Lord. Hear that rumbling way down in the crowd. I said, oh Lord, sure thing, she sure is jumping down. Texas Tony, I can bother Jack. I do anything, sure thing, oh Lord, bring something down. I do anything, oh Lord, sure thing, bring my baby back.
That was crazy.
That is the first time we've played that song, right? Yes.
That's a hard song to play. What'd I do to myself?
You did an excellent job on that, Tom. Thank you very much. Yank recorded a lot of stuff. He recorded with Big Joe Williams, if you've ever heard of that guy. He played a 9-string guitar. He recorded with a guy named Dan Smith. Nobody knows whatever happened to him. He was another guitar player. There are several stories as to what may happen to him, but that's another idea. One of the big guys, one of the people that was one of the most influential blues players of all time was one of Yank's sidemen and buddies. In fact, most of Yank's Bluebird 78s had this guy on it. It's Sonny Boy Williamson 1. And the reason I say Sonny Boy Williamson 1 was there was two Sonny Boy Williamsons. That guy was so influential that some other guy copied his name. And the guy that copied his name was just as good as he was. So we had John Lee Williamson, who was mostly a pre-war blues player who was unfortunately murdered in Chicago back in the 1940s. He didn't make it post-war for the most part. But we also have Rice Miller, who was Sonny Boy Williamson too. Okay, so our harmonica player here, Mr. Allen Stratyner, he's going to tell you a little bit more about the Sonny Boys and what kind of influence they've had on blues music.
Well, as Rich just mentioned, the first Sonny Boy, whose name was John Lee Williamson, played with our good friend Yank Rachell, and he became a tremendous influence to all the players, all the harmonica players of his time, and those who came immediately after him. So he influenced people like Little Walter, Big Walter Horton, Snooky Pryor, just a bunch of the Chicago players who heard him play. So he is arguably one of the most important people in the world of harmonica. And as Rich also mentioned, there were two Sonny Boys. And I'd like to do a tune by the second one. He might have stolen the name, but he was his own man. And he was a wonderful player. So here's a little something by Rice Miller entitled Bye Bye Bird. Bye-bye bird. Bye-bye bird. Bird, I'm gone. Bird, I'm gone. I am gone to see my girl. Bye-bye bird. Bye-bye bird. Bird, I'm gone. Bird, I'm gone. I am gone, baby, I am gone to see my girl. Bye-bye bird. Thank you all. Thank you.
Allen Stratyner.
Thank you so much.
Sure do appreciate everybody stopping in to hear us today. Thank you very much. Give yourselves a round of applause for coming out to State Fair today. I think this next song continues. Mr. Rich Hynes over here. He didn't introduce himself earlier. Mr. Rich Hynes.
Yeah, thank you very much. 2, 3, Willy moved up north. He living in old Naptown. Willy moved up north. He was living in old Naptown. Well, the blues man's a family man. It's time for him to settle down. And then along came John and Hammy Nixon too. And then along came John and Hammy Nixon too. Well, they toured all over Europe playing good old country blues. What's the old country blues there, John? Play some of that 12-string, Mr. Dan. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks. Well, that was a continuation of part 2 of my song, The New Yank Rachell Blues. And like many folks from the South, of all different nationalities, European Americans and African Americans both moved north at some point. During the 40s and 50s, a lot of folks migrated. And they migrated to Chicago, and some folks went to Detroit City, and other folks came to Columbus, Ohio, or Indianapolis, Indiana. And Yank came to Indianapolis by way of St. Louis. He spent a couple years in St. Louis, and then moved to Indianapolis, I think, in 1958 or 59, around that time, and became a family man as well as a blues man. Family was very important to him. His daughter and his grandchildren were all very important to him, so he decided to, and thankfully for us, the likelihood is that he spent less time on the road and stayed alive longer. Because a lot of times them blues guys would get out there traveling around, and it's just, it's kind of rough out there on the road sometimes. So Yank was able to stay a long time by spending as much time with his family as he did with the music and being a blues man. But around the 1960s, some of you folks might recall that they had what they call a folk scare, or they had a blues revival, whatever you want to call it. And a lot of people like Willie Dixon and different people organized tours of Europe where they would go over and have American folk blues festivals in Europe. And Yank was among those guys that went over there. And also, with Yank, I think Sleepy John and Hammy Nixon and different people played over in them tours. And Yank, again, had another career going in the 1960s as a folk musician. And we're going to ask John to play a special tune for us right now on my guitar. He played up at the Newport, Yank played at the Newport Folk Festival there for several years. And another person also played there at that, what was the woman's name? Elizabeth Cotton. She also played there at the Newport Folk Festival, and she had a great tune called Freight Train. I'm going to hand John my guitar right now and ask him to play the Elizabeth Cotton song Freight Train for us, everybody.
Yes, sir.
It's about a freight train.
I'm ready. We're ready. Freight train, rolling so fast. Freight train, rolling so fast. Please don't tell them which route I'm on, so they won't know where I've gone. Oh, when I die, Lord, bury me deep down at the end of Old Chestnut Street, so I can hear old number 9 as she goes rolling by. Freight train, rolling so fast. Freight train, rolling so fast. Please don't tell them which route I'm on, so they won't know where I've gone. So they won't know where I've gone.
Little short version there.
There's another verse. I forget. It's so similar to one, I forget it.
We notice our fingers never left our hands.
2, 3, when Taj caught the Katy, so did them TV stars. Thank you very much.
Woo! Thank you all. Thank you.
You may have noticed that we always end with that same ending, and that's called the Yank Rachell ending. As some of you may know, he had kind of a thing where not everybody started out at the same time. Never knew how that was going to work. But everybody that ever jammed or played with Yank knew how the song was going to end. So we're going to do that ending one more time. You ready to go with that? To the 5. Sure. That's all right. Everybody's supposed to end on the same time, but it didn't ever happen that way. So that was part 3 of my song, The New Yank Rachell Blues, and that tells about Yank again in his life getting some recognition and stepping up and being recognized for the powerhouse musician that he was. He was living here in Indianapolis and touring around and doing different gigs around the country and in Europe. And he did a gig out in Los Angeles, California. And when he got out there, there's several different stories as to how it goes. The famous folk rock singer Taj Mahal, a lot of folks know Taj Mahal. He was known for doing a lot of old-timey songs. And as the story goes, him and Yank did a tune that they titled "She Caught the Katy." There's different variations of that song that had played out over the 50 years or 75 years prior to that. But those two guys wrote that song hanging out in Taj Mahal's house there in Los Angeles. And a few years later, Taj recorded the song, and a few years later, the Blues Brothers recorded that song, and they put it as the opening song in their movie, The Blues Brothers. So Yank was the opening song in the very, very popular movie at the time, The Blues Brothers, and it was the opening song on their album, their soundtrack to that movie that was out on Atlantic Records, and at some point or another, Yank actually got his proper credit for writing that song and started getting the royalties on it. And the tune was called, some people call it "Left Me a Mule to Ride" or "My Baby Left Town," but we're going to ask Mr. Dan Bent to do our version of that tune called "She Caught the Katy." Go, Mr. Dan.
She caught the Katy, she left me a mule to ride. My baby caught the Katy and she left me a mule to ride. My baby caught the Katy, she left me a mule to ride. You know the train come in, I swung right along behind. Yeah, sure enough crazy about her, that hard-headed woman of mine. You know, my gal, she long, you know. Great gosh almighty, my baby's tall. My gal, she long, you know. Great gosh almighty, my baby's tall. My gal, she long. My gal, she tall. She's deep with her head in the kitchen. Her feet stick out in the hall. And I'm sure enough crazy about her, that hard-headed woman of mine. Well, I love that woman, you know, she's so fine. I wish she'd come up and see me sometime. You don't believe I love her, look what a shape I'm in. You don't believe I'm singing. You know what a fool I am. What are you behind? Said I love that woman, you know, she's so fine, and I wish she'd come up, see me sometime. You don't believe I love her, what a hole I'm in. Don't believe it's me singing, but you know what a fool I am. Said she caught Kate and she left a mule to ride. My baby caught the Katie and she left me a mule to ride. My baby caught the Katie, she left me a mule to ride. You know the train pulled out of the station, I was right on behind. Sure enough crazy about her, that hard-headed woman of mine. I'm sure enough crazy about her, that hard-headed woman of mine. Thank you kindly. She caught the Katie.
Thank you all.
Yet another Yank tune.
And again, a shout out to Mr. Taj Mahal for coming along with that tune, along with Yank, our friend Yank Rachell. And thanks to all you folks for coming out. We had another good friend here in town. He was a folk musician and a blues guitarist, Mr. Pat Webb, and he was also a good friend of Yank's. And we want to Mr. Pat Webb also passed away recently, as well as a great supporter of Yanks and a good friend of ours, Mr. Mike Butler. We'd like to dedicate this set to Mr. Butler, the guy that started out doing the Yank tribute here at the fair. Mr. Mike, my hat's off to you. Thank you very much. And we're going to go ahead and close out with the last part of my song, the Yank Rachell Blues. And here we go right now. Well, 2, 3, when Pat and Webb called me and told me Yank Rachell had died. Well, when Pat and Webb called me and he told me Yank Rachell had died. Well, I hung up my phone and I hung down my head and I cried. And then I picked up my mandolin and I began to play. And then I picked up my mandolin and I began to play. Well, my very best version of Yank's old tapping that thing. Here we go. Well, I've been to New York, I've been to New Orleans, just to hear Yank Rachell play the mandolin. I'm tapping that thing, great God Almighty, I'm tapping that thing, great God Almighty, every morning at 8, you hear me tapping that thing. Let's take it on home now, boys. Thanks to all you folks for coming out here and hearing us tell about our friend's life story. I appreciate you coming. Thank you all for coming out. We're going to do another set here in about 15 minutes. So send your friends on around here and we'll tell this story one more time in about 15 minutes. Thanks again to y'all for coming out to the 2014 Indiana State Fair.
Nice to see you and enjoy your day at the Indiana State Fair.
Hello.